The raid that changed Final Fantasy XIV history. History, dude. Hey, I can agree with that for Dragon Song, I'll tell you that. But that's basically the video made by Rinon. Yo, what's up, buddy Roddy? How's it going, dude? Welcome back. Pineapple on pizza or pizza on pineapple? Oh, man. You know what? Look, I've never had it, so I'm not gonna judge it. Let's go with that. I've never had it, so I'm not gonna judge it. You know what? I know people say it's shit, but I like to try things before I judge. Let's go with that, huh? Let's go with that. Hey, that's a good way to go about it. Alright, chat. Let me close some things up here. And let's watch this video. Here it is. Rinon. Been wanting to see this for quite some time. So here it is. The raid that changed Final Fantasy XIV history. And I like to agree already with the title. Because damn, it sure did. It's the best ultimate in the game. Always has been. You can't change my mind on this. This is exactly how I feel about it. I've always said how much I love this fight. And it is an overall W. Yeah, I'm doing good, Addy.
Today, I want to tell you a story about Final Fantasy XIV that you may or may not be familiar with.
Let's hear it.
A story about righting wrongs, about a community united. That sometimes, it's a good idea to be careful what
Happy
you
New
wish
Year,
for.
Addy. Dun, 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 dun. Hey, dun, dun, dun,
The
dun,
release
dun.
of Heavensward in June of 2015 was a completely different time compared to the FF14 of today. The MMO was still finding its feet off the back of a major relaunch, and it was clear that the developers were still in the process of developing a format and structure that proved successful in all aspects. A Realm Reborn had done great, and had pulled the title back from the jaws of permanent shutdown. But they weren't out of the woods yet. They
Yep.
needed a second hit to prove that there was staying power. Heavensward was a gambit, a risky entry focusing on character-driven narrative, adding complexity to combat systems, and expanding...
Chat, what's your guys' favorite expansion, by the way? I know a lot of people say Heavensward is probably their favorite in terms of story, but if you guys had to pick one, which one would be it?
the world. The writers weren't afraid to make bold moves either, such as killing off fan-favorite character
That was
Haurchefant
badass.
in a brutal fashion.
Bro, like I'm telling you, Haurchefant alone... Oh wait, he's gotta put me in here. I reacted to this.
His death reverberated within FF14's
Haurchefant
community,
is sick, man.
and to this very day,
He made
people
DSR.
recall it as one of the most emotionally impactful moments that they've had in this decade-long game. Shirts were made, memorials were hosted,
Yeah.
and great loss was felt. But what if you could change history? What if you could save
What if you could save him? And that's what DSR did. Yeah, dude, that part is sick, man. It actually is so good. He made
In
DSR.
2017, the first Ultimate encounter was implemented, an entirely new difficulty of content that stood head and shoulders above the rest. The Unending Coil of Bahamut and the Weapons Refrain released in winter 2017 and summer 2018 respectively, and they covered both
Copies.
the main story and the raid story from A Realm Reborn. UCOB in particular shook the raiding community to its very core because it was such a vast step up in difficulty from anything that had
was
come
something.
before it that players simply weren't prepared for. How could they be? An almost 20-minute long marathon requiring precise execution, memorization of complex multi-layered mechanics, and excellent rotational gameplay and team play throughout. The best groups in the world would spend a week plus of full-time gaming to practice,
Warfare took 11
solve,
days. Holy
and
shit.
eventually clear a single one of these fights. They were that hard, and instead of being completely original encounters, they would instead be ballads sung of previously released fan-favourite moments from the game's past. But the community loved the challenge, and they rose to it, eventually coming out the victors. Anticipation was high amongst players to see what the developers would do to pay homage to Heavensward, how
Bro,
its
that's fucking
trials
hype.
and tribulations would be covered in Ultimates. Then, Shadowbringers released in 2019 to massive critical acclaim, and just a handful of months
Shadowbringers,
later,
baby!
accompanying its 5.1 patch, came the Epic of Alexander, the ultimate raid themed around Heavensward's Alexander raid series.
Dude, I remember when I started this game as a Sprout, everyone would tell me that, like, because T was like the hot shit. Everyone would talk to me about T, how hard it was. They can't wait for me to play it.
This was another massive
like
success.
Crazy.
And despite some small controversies regarding the core puzzle mechanic Enigma Codex, and ended in the loss of the ability to place waymarks in combat,
Oh yeah, I
thanks
heard
to
about
a
that.
third-party tool used by the world first group. This raid set the bar even higher in terms of spectacle and the creativity of the mechanics we could expect. All eyes looked to 5.3, where an ultimate was scheduled to release that was hyped unlike any other. One which would cover the main Heavensward story, the Dragon Song War, in all its glory. It was then the disaster struck.
Yeah.
The pandemic hit, and understandably, the development team struggled to effectively move game production from their office to a working from home environment quickly. Patch 5.3 was delayed for months due to this upheaval, and the ultimate release was subsequently postponed until patch 5.5,
oh, look at Yoshi.
which wouldn't come for the better part of a year. After a long wait, biding their time, raiders tuned into the live letter showcasing the features of patch 5.5, only to see this. The raid had been delayed again, this time until patch 6.1 of the next
Wait, it got delayed twice? Oh, I didn't know. Oh shit, so it should have came out E8S, but it didn't. And then it should have came out after E12S, and it didn't. So it's after 2 raid tiers, right? Oh my god, I didn't know that. Holy shit. Dude, so the wait's been kind of massive. Dude, I think if DSR released in Shadowbringers, man, Shadowbringers might be the best expansion of all time. Like, DSR is crazy.
Expansion Endwalker. Were it to release on time, this would mean an almost
because I consider the best content Endwalker
gap between the Epic of Alexander and this new ultimate.
Damn,
what the live letter
6.1
did tease, though, was that this ultimate would focus on the Dragon Song War in a what-if scenario. What could that mean? This was the first time an ultimate release had deviated from the broad strokes of what had actually happened. Endwalker was the perfect storm. In the months leading up to the expansion launch, the game saw a massive influx of World of Warcraft players, tired of the current state of their game, following in the footsteps of massive...
Dude, that was the biggest time for FF, by the way. Everyone was shitting on WoW at an insane amount. They all came to this game. Dude, Endwalker popped off because of that too.
Content creators like Asmongold.
Damn!
The launch was insanely successful, reaching never-before-seen player counts. The story almost universally adored.
Fucking shamans,
the implementation of brand new jobs, such as a Reaper and Sage, had expanded the job portfolio to a whopping total of 19. And in the trailer for patch 6.1, finally,
it was that bad.
It was time.
Damn. Shadowlands BFA. Here comes the patch. Oh yeah! Da, 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 da. Dude, this shit's hype. Bro, this shit's hype as fuck. I love that. Dude, the last theme of DSR goes
The
hard.
date is April 26th, 2022. Servers are coming up soon, and with them comes the release of Dragon Song's Reprise Ultimate, the first Endwalker Ultimate, and what will undoubtedly be the most memorable fight Final Fantasy
of all time.
XIV has
Like,
seen.
you gotta understand, people have been waiting for this for what, over a year? That shit got delayed twice. The hype has been fucking real. So it comes out, it comes blasting, and damn, did they serve? Did they absolutely serve? I mean, they had this whole time to basically master the ultimate, and goddamn, they did it. They really did. It popped off.
3 years. Hundreds
It's not
of
even up to
groups
debate.
are hyped, connected to their Statics Discord
It
calls,
is the
and
best.
ready to jump in the moment the servers go live.
Yeah.
Before the action kicks off, I want to quickly familiarize you with a few of the major teams that you are going to see
Yeah, all
popping up
expansion
more than once
awaiting.
during this video. Kindred, a popular world racing team, Safety
Joel.
helmet featuring everyone's favorite bald American Xeno.
The bald samurai. Okay.
Hit Hard, featuring Stahl and friends from the group that placed world second in the Epic of Alexander race in 2019.
Oh yeah, those guys.
Neverland, a newly formed non-streaming group that looked
I know
like a real
about these guys,
contender.
yeah.
Thoughts Per Second, the world-first group from the Epic of Alexander. Kryl,
Damn.
a Japanese group featuring
Oh
Sasuke
yeah, that's Arthur's team, right?
himself.
This pro is amazing, not just for doing the fight.
Otter House, No Hit, and Kirana's Tivoli, which is the group that I was healing for. In FF14, there are a lot
Rinon,
of
world
groups that
first
just won't
race.
stream their progression, including a lot of very competitive top-tier statics, and I won't be mentioning them too much here unless they're especially relevant to the race. With less than an hour to go before the race to World First was set to begin, a screenshot started circulating which
That's
put
badass.
the entire community on edge.
That's fucking
This is a
badass.
picture which at the time was considered either leaked or doctored from the unreleased encounter
Oh,
from a never
shit.
seen before phase. There was no way this could have been spoofed in current Final Fantasy XIV, and there was no explanation for how anyone had got hold of this screenshot. Data mining absolutely happens in FF14,
Yeah.
and that information gets
Happens a
circulated
lot.
fairly publicly, but it's usually limited to buff and debuff icons, text, and weird Fisher-Price versions of the boss.
Yeah, I heard obviously in World of Warcraft, like, you get access to the content, like, what's it called? Before it goes live. PTR. But with FF14, like, you don't have access to the content, not really, but you have access to the debuffs if you data mine or something, right? So you have that. But you can't actually see what the debuffs do. It's just icons, right? Or do they also describe the icons? I'm not actually sure, but yeah, that's like the extent of the information you can get is like debuffs.
boss models. An actual in-game screenshot from what looked like live
Yeah, releasing the
gameplay
unknown. I feel like
with
it's more
enemy
exciting,
models and
you know what I mean?
everything seemingly functioning.
Rather
this
than
wasn't
PTR.
possible. Even if some group had somehow managed the impossible and gotten a private server functioning on current patch with the new ultimate, and it didn't implode, there's no way this could realistically be done. With that mystery floating around, the community had to collectively put it to the wayside because servers were going live and the race was beginning.
What was about
Quest
execution?
grab, ultimate online,
I like that.
party up, Q-pop.
Coupon, baby. I fucking love this song.
What awaits you upon queuing into the instance is this. The exact same bridge you watched Haurchefant
That's
die on all
badass. Yeah,
those years
that's
ago.
sick. That's sick.
2 Knights of the Heavensward stand before
Bro, look at all this quest shit, man. You gotta get rid of all this.
you, Sir Adelphil and Sir Greneau.
This
You're
HUD.
gonna have to take them both on at once. They start off with an onslaught of simple yet heavy-hitting attacks, which groups had little trouble mitigating and burning one of their tank invulnerabilities to pass. And shortly after this, Adelphil jumps away and becomes untargetable, and Greneau ramps up his attacks. Players will be targeted
Oh
in
my
sets
God!
of 4 with markers
Look,
on their
this-
head,
this is how they
and
did
then
it
shot
before.
with these big, heavy-hitting
Bro, they go all the way back.
line AoEs that leave black holes in the wall behind where they hit.
Holy
These
shit.
black holes cut down on your movement space for the next mechanic, because
That's
if
the
you
way
get
shit was
too
done.
close to them, they tether to you and suck your life points right out of you.
Yeah.
Once 8 black holes have been placed, Adelphil returns to the fight and darts around the arena.
Was that
The
mystery ever
party is knocked
solved?
back,
No
and
clue.
orbs begin to
Has
explode
it?
everywhere, leaving very little safe space between that and the black holes. The bosses also need to be regularly interrupted to prevent them from healing. Once you manage to pass through these mechanics, a set of markers that had never been seen before in FF14 would rear their
Yeah, so
ugly
this is
heads
new.
for the first time.
PlayStation.
The PlayStation markers.
Yes.
Players would get circle, triangle, X, or square above their
And they also use PlayStation again in top. So I'm kind of glad they're adding it. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I wonder what Dawn Trail's going to add. Like, something new, you know? Like, obviously, we all know, you know, FF14 has this raid language, right? And so I wonder if they're going to add some new extra raid language stuff. Oh, yeah, Barbarecia. Oh, yeah, shit, Barbarecia used PlayStation. You're right. Wait, did Barbarecia come after DSR? Oh, yeah, it did, right? DSR was the first time they did PlayStation. And then P12S. Oh yeah, P12S. You have the thing above your head, right? I forgot what it was exactly, but you do get something above your head.
They would be linked to the person with the same symbol as them.
And then you gotta move to the
the
shape.
pairs would be chained together, a knockback would occur, and then each player would explode with an AoE around them for heavy damage. If the burning chain wasn't broken by being far away from one another after the knockback, you're both going to die. You can pretty clearly see what needed to happen here. Once you managed to reduce both knights' HP to 0, and you needed to do this almost at the exact same time, because once one died, the other would immediately begin casting in rage. You'd be pulled into a smaller arena with a third caster knight.
To be honest, I feel like it's a good phase 1. Like, let's be honest, chat, would you guys play DSR P1 or top P1? I think the answer is quite fucking obvious.
Haurchefant would run to your defense.
I think it's quite obvious.
As a spear comes flying across the arena to your group, and he stops it in his tracks with his shield. Shockwaves pulse, and as you deal with the simple mechanics of baiting
for P1, it's alright.
And dropping puddles whilst DPSing down the boss, you helplessly watch him struggle.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like not so interesting IDEX. Top P1 is like, it's like, okay, I'll get through it. DSR, I feel like P1 DSR is a little bit more fun, I feel. Personally, anyway. Maybe because I'm just so fucking biased to DSR and the Knights.
Dead.
Dead. Goodbye, Horsey.
What's going on?
Oh yeah, when they were doing this.
You know what's coming.
Look on the
Yep.
left of the... That's our...
Oh no!
That's
Oh
our
no!
friend. No, he's...
This phase went by pretty quickly,
Horsey
because
dead.
every mechanic was pretty easy in terms of execution. It was just fighting through the hurdle of initially solving what needed to be done, and how to figure out exact positioning and organization for the PlayStation markers that took a few pulls. After just over an hour since the servers came up, the first groups were watching Haurchefant fall and pushing the caster knight to sub 30%, which was a requirement to beat his enrage. Otterhouse and Kryl both led the charge, seeing transition with enough players alive and watching.
And here you have to GCD the boss. You have to, otherwise it fucks up. If you wall it right here, it doesn't put you in the checkpoint, I don't think.
The arena changed to
So you have to hit it.
Thordan's, marking the start of phase 2.
I will.
Were people shocked when this was a checkpoint? I don't know what people's first impressions were when there was a checkpoint.
Ascalon's Mercy concealed.
You're dead.
Oh!
Oh.
Up to one side.
That's a frontal. That's a frontal. I think that's a frontal tank cleave.
That gave him a damage down though. I think
Wait,
that's a shame too.
The
Okay, they're surprised.
first wall had been broken. This was shocking. There was a checkpoint in the encounter after you successfully landed your first.
Because no other ultimate has a checkpoint, right? Like, yeah, P1 top, P1 UCOB, P1 Uwu. Yeah, no other ultimate has a checkpoint. Like, this is the only one.
Attack on Thordan, so you didn't have to do the first phase again for the remainder of the 2-hour lockout. This had never happened before in an ultimate encounter. Outcry erupted on message boards and
I think it's an overall good choice that they did a checkpoint, by the way. Oh, look at this guy. I can't believe this fight has a checkpoint. The game is ruined. My life is ruined. The world is ruined. I won't be able to sleep at night. Not now knowing the new ultimate has a checkpoint. All I have worked towards is gone. It's Yoshi P's fault. I can't believe this. I'm uninstalling. I'm going back to play Viva Pinata on my Xbox. Holy fuck. Dude, this guy wasn't playing.
Twitch chats as the Reddit detectives gave their 2 cents
Bad game. Bad game.
on the topic. Claims that this ultimate would be the easiest
I'm
ever,
leaving.
and complaints that the checkpoint would ruin the encounter were abundant.
I actually think it made the fight better. Because without a checkpoint, you'd have to do that P1 shit again. It's like, who really cares about doing that again? And also, the fight is long enough after the checkpoint that it's completely fucking fine.
I don't think it's a spoiler to say that these concerns amounted to absolutely nothing, because what was to come was some of the best
Because
and
it's,
most
yeah, it still ended up being the best fight in the game.
exciting moments in the game's
True.
history. As the forerunning statics began pulling P2,
Yeah, and
the
it's still
rest of
long
the
as fuck.
competitors
Exactly.
quickly caught up. After a few simple mechanics, Thordan began casting Strength of the Ward, his first major mechanic, and any raiding veteran
Hell yeah.
immediately knew what they were witnessing the moment the boss became untargetable. trios. So, ever since UCOB, these
They knew
big
from
set-piece
UCOB.
mechanics, which would throw intense combinations of previously standalone Savage mechanics, started being introduced. They'd be combined in new configurations to offer harder tests.
Same idea,
Usually there would be a
slightly
few
different.
trios in quick succession, with damage phases on the boss breaking them up. This was very clearly going to be a trio-centric phase, where damage on the boss would come naturally as long as mechanics were passed with 8 players alive. At the end of the cast of Strength of the Ward, 3 of the Heaven's Ward Knights will appear around the edge of the arena and dive in a straight line, rendering most of the floor
I think the part that made this phase really cool is Rinon. When he smacks the ground and those earth, the earth, whatever you want to call it, they come outwards. That part makes it really fun and it's more exciting. Because it's not just like, oh, you move in spot and then you stand still and then you just dodge Ascon's Mercy. I think adding Grenade in there, you know how many people died to that shit because of timing, and it adds to it. Grenade actually made this part more fun.
Space a
to
death
prog
zone.
with.
Players need to
Dude, they have
spread
to-
within those 2
have to
small
move in.
safe spots, because each is going to take a small AoE
Yeah,
damage.
and you have to take an account of if he's
Stand
far or
and
close.
let things
Stand and
resolve.
let things... Just stand and
damage
let
on
things
themselves.
resolve. That's
Then
the game, guys.
a third knight will slam
you can
down
see.
a pulsing circular ballast that
Yeah, and
needs
then
to
you
be
dodge that.
dodged,
That's
in
good.
combination with setting up to avoid delayed line AoEs on each player from
Yeah.
Thordan. Then, and yeah, that's right, that's only the first half of the mechanic. 3 players will get blue markers on their head indicating they're about to get slam dunked. 2 knights will spawn in the arena with tethers that tanks need to grab because they're both tank
Oh, look, they didn't cross them in the beginning.
busters. 6 towers will spawn, and growing red AoEs appear all over the floor. This was a mess. If a tower was missed, it was a wipe. If a blue AoE was too close to the group, it was a wipe. If a tank misplaced their tether, it was probably a wipe.
Yeah, like,
This
anyone makes a mistake there, it's pretty much game over.
mechanic was intensely punishing, but groups pushed through. After this, they got a brief respite, aside from the tank who just got hit in the face a few more times, followed by the cast of a mechanic that will definitely
meteor
be
goes
memorable
hard.
for most of the races.
Oh man, I want to see what he talks about meteors.
Sanctity
How's
of the
people's
Ward.
world first race
This was
experience with
essentially
that?
2 trios in one.
That shit is
The
complex.
first was simple in concept. A giant red eye would appear on the edge of the room, as would Thordan. Don't look at them. Knights would spawn in the room, and 2 random players would get a 1 or 2 sword on their heads. The
Yep.
players would be leapt on in order by the Dark Knight twice, which was a shared damage that needed 3 to 4 players to survive, and also did damage based on proximity. So the one group would need to be away from the knight, with the 2 group being behind his initial spot. This seems super doable until you factor in the fact that the arena at the time looked like this. Winnable? Or you could just do this.
Oh my god! Oh my god! What the fuck? How the hell did he dodge all? Dude, this guy's a god! This guy's a god!
Holy shit, Valor.
How? This guy is a literal ninja prodigy. Holy shit, dude. The extra movement speed saved him, I'll tell you that.
Focus.
Once you make
Dude's
it
a
through this
beast.
mechanic, at the time with a
Bro,
lot
that's
of
how you
clenching
do it.
involved,
That's how you do the mechanic. That's it.
while the sequence was still being learned, things just got worse. The arena block
Yeah, I know he got gazed. I know. That's what I was saying is like he's looking at the eye that was like in front of him. But that's the best part is that it all just fucking worked.
up with fire and ice puddles.
Yeah,
Random
I know he got
configurations
gazed.
of towers spawn. Some inside near the middle, some on the edge.
But he's a god, dude.
2 players are marked, and shortly players will need to split themselves off into
Prodigy.
pairs to cancel out fire and ice AoEs that will target themselves. Then, players need to grab those towers, and the 2 marked people need to set up roughly opposite one another on the outside of the arena, and then run a half circle around, baiting the meteors. That
Yeah, I
will
kind of went. On my guide, I kind of went too ham on this part. I literally tried to show every single pattern.
drop on top of them, one by one. A
Glad I helped
second
out,
set of
dude.
8 towers spawn, this time not random, all on the edge. A knockback happens,
Yep.
and players need to end up in those 8 towers. In theory, this mechanic sounds like a lot of very simple things on top of each other, and
It's just
it
the
is.
patterns.
The issue is that there is so much randomization that a number of rules needed to be made to deal with every single permutation. There was a chance to need to swap meteor positions, to have players swap spots. There were so many variables that solving this consistently wasn't going to be a simple task. Groups spent hours here, bashing their heads against this one mechanic to hone their strategies and develop a workaround for
Look at
every
that.
new pattern it arose.
Stand and
There
let it
were
resolve. Have a
Alternative
snack.
solutions too.
Holy shit, lol.
Whoa, what?
Long?
Whoa,
Damn.
what the fuck?
Easy.
Dude. Fuck. Holy shit, lol.
Wait, did he do the Shikuchi? I did, yeah.
Holy
I just
shit.
noticed that. I missed that.
Whoa.
So he's one of the first guys that did the Shikuchi knockback trick. He's one of the first people that did that shit. Well, I mean, now you can do it slightly different. You don't have to do middle. You can do backwards and then inwards. I kind of have a whole nother video about this if you guys are curious, but yeah.
Damn.
But yeah, that works.
Dude.
Once
Ninja,
you managed
baby.
to get through this mechanic, Thordan and his knights would rally together and cast ultimate
Yeah,
End,
middle is cooler.
causing massive group damage. If you survived, he'd be so taken aback that he'd start panicking. And if you made it through to this point relatively cleanly, a kill was absolutely in sight. And so, one by one, the kills came in. Groups were still pretty close to one another at this stage, and in the later stages of day 1, Thordan met his end. Time for phase 3.
I am Nidhogg. This is my favorite phase, by the way.
Estinian, corrupted by the power
I
of
am
Nidhogg's
Nidhogg.
eye, bursts into the arena with one of the coolest raid wides I've ever seen, and immediately
Yeah.
begun stabbing the tank.
Bro, this fight,
I'm just gonna say it.
Bro, this phase, bro, it's just fucking different, okay? The best.
Now, in advance, this phase is something
I am
else.
ninja.
The core mechanic of phase 3 is that certain players will need to place towers for other members of the raid to later take. But the way you do it is so fun. 3 people will be
Yep.
marked with a 1,
It's so
2
fun,
with a 2,
man.
and 3 with a 3. This number dictates the order in which you're going to drop
Lash and
towers
lash.
for other members of the raid to take. You can't take your own
Bait.
tower, you can't take 2 towers, and there are heavy stacks going off at the same time that require around 5 people in them. So putting people in the exact right places at the exact right times consistently was a requirement. Once you take a tower, a clone will drop in place of it and will shoot a massive line AoE in a few seconds, targeting the closest person. The player that took the tower
Yep.
will want to face this away from danger and then avoid. On
Yeah.
top of this, Nidhogg
Easily-
is doing
Easily one of the most best designed phases of all time. It's just so fun. It has a certain pacing to it that is really good. It gives you enough time to go to your positions. It's fun. This part is really fun. And my favorite part is just like how much room you have to play around this, like in and out, go to your spot, and then like you have to walk around. You can't just walk through the middle if it's a certain Lash and Nash or whatever it is that you go up against. That part's fucking awesome, man.
bar telegraphed in and out dodges, and sometimes your tower placement can instead be marked with an arrow. If it is, that means that you are not going to place a tower on your current position,
Yep.
but in the direction of your arrow instead. This added an additional foil and thing to think about, as it randomly made certain numbers a lot stricter to plan out during prog. This entire mechanic is an absolute masterpiece. The timing of everything feels fast enough to be exhilarating,
Yep.
but just slow enough that the chaos is controlled. There's a decent chunk of damage going out on the party, but competent healers were quickly able to optimize their damage and play perfectly. Every member of the group
It's
had
so
to
good.
engage with this dance and had a number of possible safe spots they'd need to take. And because the boss never jumped away, it really rewarded groups that were able to build uptime strategies quickly with a more lenient enrage later down the line.
Yep.
Honestly, thinking back on it, this phase on the whole is definitely a contender for my favorite ultimate phase ever.
Oh, look at that! Rinon shares the exact same opinion that I do on this. Damn fucking based, Rinon. You know what? I'll give you a like for that. Fucking W. And is he wrong? He's fucking right.
There was a weird bug that could occur that people referred
I've
to
been
as
saying
the
this the
Brazil
whole
Tower,
time.
but this was patched out pretty quickly, so it's not too bad. Once
Real and
you
true.
deal with the entire Dive from Grace sequence, 4 towers spawn in the Intercardinals. But these are special towers, because some of them have 3 towers inside, or 4, because they're silly little guys. There will always be 8 players required in these towers in total,
Yep.
but they will rarely be evenly split 2-2-2-2. Instead, players have to adjust to these random tower configurations to stop them from going boo. After this, Nidstinian clones drop to be baited, and one of the 4 at random will get a tank buster tether.
Oh my god, is he baiting?
Clones drop to be baited, and one of the 4 at random will get a tank buster tether instead. The boss will have a second tether,
Okay, dude.
so both
Suit
tanks
on.
need to grab them and pray. These are some of the hardest hitting busters, relatively speaking, in the game. So if tanks weren't prepared, it could get really risky, really quickly. Following this, the Enrage sequence begun. This is a good time for me to mention that the damage downs in DSR were truly evil. 2 minutes long, and cutting your
Yeah.
overall DPS down so substantially.
I think it's an overall W that they made the Lash and Nash and all that stuff give you damage down. Because it will make just getting hit by 1 so punishing. Especially if you're doing the roll first and trying to like prog at release. It's so punishing.
Substantially that the best course of action, if you got one, was usually to die at
Yeah,
the next
die.
possible moment. And no, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
If a player held the damage down throughout a phase, it was highly likely that you just were not going to meet the DPS check. The checks had not been completely insane, but they were definitely tight enough to demand mostly clean play from 8 competent players. So before phase 3 could be downed, everybody needed practice. Luckily by this point, Limit Break 3 had been
Shimatsure.
generated, so we were on the cusp of seeing a brand new phase. One thing
Get
to
it.
notice here is that the Dragonsong War gauge on the duty list was filling up very quickly. Right now, the furthest groups were barely 6 minutes into the fight, and yet this gauge is almost full. Combined with the checkpoint, could this be a new, more casual, friendly style of Ultimate? People were concerned about what exactly was happening here. Was there a twist? Then, out of nowhere, Thoughts Per Second posted a clip on Twitter.
Yes. Yes. That part's sick, man. Time to die. The eyes. It's a very
The group
thematic.
themselves were not streaming their prog, but from what little footage they had shown, they were miles ahead of the competition. A
Damn.
previously unseen phase, and no less, what looked to be an enrage of that phase? How far ahead could they be? Nonetheless, we didn't have to wait long to find out,
They fucking
because
popped
No
off.
Hit managed to down Nidhogg shortly afterwards and make a real headway into a brand new phase, before they promptly ended their stream to hide their new knowledge from the competition. Kryl followed soon after, and then we were on to phase 4.
You get it.
Easy.
Sangkai. A key junde. Sangkai.
Oh look, they're all spreading out. They're trying to understand what's gonna happen next. They're trying to get it. Oh. Invulnerable. You notice it's invulnerable? He swaps eye? Damn, fucking dead. Here they're trying to get as much
As the
knowledge as
Dragonsong
possible.
War progress gauge ticks up following Estinian's defeat, the arena shifts to the final
That is
steps
so
of
cool,
faith.
seeing
the
how people
scene
did this.
of the last confrontation with Nidhogg at the end of the original main scenario quests. Alphino runs in from the south of the arena to assist his friend Estinian, who is bound and broken between the eyes of Nidhogg.
That's badass.
He begs us to finish him, and in response,
I would ask one
the
last
Ghost of
favour of
Haurchefant
you,
blesses us with
Warrior
the
of
soul
Light.
friendship buff. At the same time, Alphino pulses the soul of devotion from around him.
He helped too.
The eyes
Haurchefant.
grow, surging with power, and the phase begins. These 2 buffs are a requirement to be able to deal damage to the eyes. Each buff corresponds to one of the eyes, and possessing the buff means that you can hit them. This was the first point of contention between groups. It was totally possible to stack both buffs together. But
Yeah.
was this the right idea? Would this bite groups in the butt later down the road? Why is it that there are 2 separate buffs obtained in 2 separate ways? Thanks to the puzzle elements that Ultimates have traditionally introduced, it was definitely within the realm of possibility that the correct play was to split the buffs to avoid some unseen failure state later. For the sake of progression though, most groups opted to take the risk and stack the buffs together, allowing them to double dot and cleave both eyes, making the DPS check much, much easier.
Okay, so they thought if they didn't all get the both buffs together, that something later would happen that would fuck it up. So they did the same. Okay, yeah, that's smart.
So let's break down how this phase actually works.
Until you find out
the
what
red
happens
eye
later.
will tether 4 players with red chains, and the blue eye will tether 4 players with blue chains. Players that take damage while linked to the red chain will deal a chunk of damage to the red eye. Whereas when players with the blue chain take damage, they heal the blue eye. You can trade tethers with another person by standing on top of them for a second or so. So the goal of this phase is to create a setup which has the players about to be hit with the red chain and avoid taking damage as a blue chain. 3 orbs spawn around each eye. A large yellow orb and 2 blue orbs.
God, I
Yellow
love
orbs
Arthur's
should be
headband,
popped by
man.
2 players and blues by 1. After
True
a period
ninja.
of time, the blue orbs would grow, and if you left them too long after that point, they would explode, killing everyone. Growing an orb would make them deal more damage to whoever popped them.
They kind of got the
And if
right
you consider
idea.
how the chains work,
Pronging this
it's
for the first
pretty
time.
easy to see why that may be a good thing. So you'd pop the yellow orbs, trade the chains, and then pop the 4 blue orbs, chunking the red eye. Next, players with a red chain will be dived in sets of 2 by mirage dives from Nidhogg clones. These do massive damage and apply a vuln, so if you take 2 in a row,
Oh shit,
you
look where
die.
they're standing.
This happens 4 times in total, for 8 dives overall.
Ah,
So
they're
the
hitting the
goal
other eye
is
too.
simply to trade tethers between dives to make sure that nobody with a vuln up possesses a red dive. The eyes are then going to cast Steep Enrage, and this
Oh
acts
my
as a
God.
pseudo enrage for the phase, because each eye does this attack individually.
It's crazy now to think like you never have to like damage the other eye as much. You kind of do at the start, and then you kind of just let the mirage dives finish it off at 40%. It's crazy how much things have changed.
So if both happen to be alive at this point, they're both going to cast the heavy hitting raid wides, and taking 2 of them at once was very close to unsurvivable.
Yeah.
The ice phase was deceptive, because the difficulty in the ice phase was not in solving the mechanics, or even in executing them. On the whole, this was honestly the easiest phase to execute in the encounter so far, aside from the pre-checkpoint door boss. The biggest issue with the ice phase is that they had a relatively tight DPS check that required clean play and no accidental friendly fire on the blue chains, and the groups were just getting deep enough into DSR to fall victim to the consistency check. The hardest part of progging eyes was seeing eyes, and this was where groups had to really focus on building their consistency. A new goal became not only progging and killing eyes, but bringing Limit Break 3 over from the previous phase without using it. This would free up a melee or ranged LB3 if needed to lessen the strain of the eyes enrage.
Little do they know, they need the next LB.
Or even to keep
But they don't
further
know
into
that
the
yet.
fight. As the leading groups were approaching
They don't
the
know
eyes
that.
enrage, once again, the TPS Twitter reared its head, posting this clip without context.
Yes. Holy shit, this music, man.
A clock? Rolling back? What could this mean? They had clearly gotten past eyes and seen something new. And soon
That was the
enough,
first time they
Cryo
saw a
would
clock.
become the first stream group to see exactly what had been hidden from this clip. This was where the race evolved from good to incredible.
Okay. Although I'm gonna be honest, this part is fucking epic. The fact is, you're trying to save Haurchefant, and it's this crazy other timeline. And I think that's what made DSR so special, is the fact that it has another timeline where you save him and then shit goes different. That's fucking hype. And like people gotta figure out that they have to save him. It's like a small mini game that you had to do, and it was really cool. It was so thematic. It's so awesome. I want to see what they did when they first did this though.
Not correct.
Like, what is this? They thought they had to do that shit again, dude. They have to do it again. Replay the fight! Dude, that part is so cool. Dude, they don't know about Haurchie. They thought it's the exact same way. No, Haurchefant is dead, bro.
やばバフがないからヒール
倒しないといけない
Oh,
倒しないといけ
no.
ないこれ倒しないといけないかも
They're gonna go back to P1. They're gonna go back to P1. They don't.
That's right.
They're like, what is happening? We went back to P1 and then we went back to P2. Dude, Arthur's just freaking out. Dude, that's so funny. He's like, dude, look at him. He's like, what the fuck? Look at him, look at him, look at him. He's like, what? Dude, this is so good. It's so good, dude.
That's right. When you
Oh my
successfully
God.
defeat Phase 4 and
Bro,
play out the
it's
full
so good seeing people's reactions on this
Dragon Song War
for the first time, man.
The clock rolls
What's up,
back,
Gaia?
and you find yourself back at the start.
Yeah,
of the
it's
fight.
like, what the fuck? What did we do wrong? We're back at the start. What happened?
The exact moment that Haurchefant dies protecting
What happened,
you,
dude?
the end of Phase 1.
Did we do
you
something
must play
wrong?
out events again, just the way they happened the first time. Watching your friend fall, defeating Sir Chariver, and phasing back into Thordan. It was a time loop.
I wonder who thought of the idea to save him. Like, they probably saw something and they noticed, like, he's dying.
It was mind-blowing. In the second loop, everything was the exact same as the first. You didn't have some extra buff, there were no new mechanics, nothing.
It's the exact same
You just
thing.
tried and failed again.
With one
What
little
on
twist.
earth was going on here? What were you supposed to do? Was it possible to save him?
Well, he's trying
As
to
the
figure it
other
out.
groups one by one caught up and witnessed Rewind for themselves? It was time to figure this out. There
Uh-huh.
were a few things here of note that became the four running theories, and groups essentially had to pick their poison as to which one they tried first. First up was completing a second loop in its entirety.
Hmm.
Honestly, this one I think was pretty cope, and it was the last thing that most groups were opting to even consider
Yeah, that's
trying.
like redoing the whole fight, but maybe they think like, oh, what if we reach P4 again while continuing? Maybe something else happens. Maybe they thought that, you know?
Because it just seemed so unlikely.
Hmm.
From a design standpoint, doing the same fight twice
Yeah.
would make no sense at all.
It wouldn't.
With misaligned cooldowns, it became crushingly hard to consistently meet the DPS check.
Yeah.
And honestly, the other options that I'm about to outline next just seemed stronger. The second was splitting the buffs in halves.
They thought about splitting and then maybe they passed that phase.
This one also seemed kind of cope, kind of unrelated, but no group had successfully managed this yet, so it was definitely a fallback solution that
That's
groups could
interesting.
rely on.
That's interesting that they thought about that.
The most likely
Be like the way to
scenario
pass
failed
it.
miserably. Thirdly, before I explain, I want to take you back to Phase 1 for a second to look at something. You see the limit break bar here? There are only 2 gauges,
Yeah.
which is usually reserved for light party content. Where was the third LB gauge? Why did you only receive it when you transitioned to the Thordan checkpoint? This had been raised a few times as a little quirk or point of interest by a few groups so far, and even in Twitch chats, but it had been
Twitch
pretty
chat.
irrelevant, so it was kind of ignored. There was no point paying too much attention to it. But now,
it has a purpose.
now it was suddenly incredibly important.
Yes.
Because after Rewind, you get pulled back into this phase, but with access to a possible LB3, something completely unobtainable before. This had to be it. But before it was even possible to trial, groups had to majorly optimize the previous phases in order to bring across LB3 to Rewind.
Yeah.
During prog so far,
So they had to not LB3 here, essentially, because they need it. Exactly. Neverland did an interview on FF Logs where they said that LB3 to save Haurchefant was found because in the logs it's not LB3, it's actually the arena itself that cast it, so it's kind of messy. The arena itself? I'm not sure I understand. Huh. They're saying like LB3 was cast by the arena itself?
it was commonly done to use LB3 to kill either Nidhogg or Eyes. But in order to test either of these theories, both of those phases had to be down cleanly without the use of limit breakers.
Exactly, they had to play that shit perfect. You can't be fucking up, you can't be getting damage downs, you can't be LBing.
On the rare pull that a
package.
group managed to get far enough to test, they did so, one by one. Melee LB could kill the boss fast enough to free up the group from the mini-arena potentially, allowing them to help Haurchefant, but it failed. It did not release you from the jail. Healer LB could be used to revive him after
what?
Group from the mini-arena potentially, allowing them to help kill the boss far enough to test. They did so, one by one. Melee LB could kill the boss fast enough to free up the group from the mini-arena potentially, allowing them to help Haurchefant, but it failed. It did not release you from the jail.
Yeah.
Healer LB could be used to revive him after he fell in battle, right? Surely Tank LB would protect him from the damage, right? There had to be more to it. Back and forth the viewers went between streams, waiting for another tantalizing rewind pull to test a new theory. Kryl tested the heal LB and found that it did not res
Heal LB didn't work.
rendering that option a complete no-go. Kirana's Tivoli tested the Tank LB, waiting until he was targetable in the hopes of reducing his incoming damage for as long as possible. And it actually worked.
It worked.
Better yet, it continued mitigating damage on him even after the Limit Break 3 had worn off, but it still wasn't enough. He still died. What was discovered through much trial and error...
Wait, he still died after Tank LB? How? Isn't that how you literally save him? Well, they have to heal him. Ah, they didn't heal him. They didn't think maybe he was targetable or something?
Looking through footage between the four running groups was that if you press the Tank LB forward to using it before Haurchefant's HP bar appeared, he was actually targetable by Limit Break the entire time. You would remove the debuff on him that prevented him from being healed. This would mean that he had both the damage mitigation...
Wait.
Actually targetable by Limit Break the entire time. You would remove the debuff on him that prevented him from being healed.
You would remove the debuff on him preventing from being healed? If you tank LB? I didn't even know that. I thought it just mitigated the damage. What the fuck? I didn't actually know this. Huh. Nice thing for healers and tanks to know, actually. I didn't even know. Sorry, let me catch up with chat here. Instead of saying the player who used LB3, it says this exactly. Environments land walker fates from Haurchefant. Oh, so that's what it says in the logs? Huh. Interesting. So that's what Neverland saw, huh? Damn. Yeah, what's up, Kala? That's the gimmick here. Pressing LB3 removes infirmary debuff on him, or rather reduces it. Yeah, it's the reduced healing thing. That's crazy. I didn't even know it. LB3 removes that.
This would mean that he had both the damage mitigation for the entire phase from
and
Tank
you can heal him more.
and he was able to be healed by the healers, and the damage on him from the spear became...
Oh, it's what enables the healers to actually even heal him in the first place. There needs to be a tank LB for that to happen.
much, much more manageable.
Or it's just
now
reduction.
the game had changed. Now you could save it. Now the race was on. Once you managed to defeat Sir Charibur while keeping your boy alive, the spear slowly taking his life became targetable. And it was a race against the Enraged to defeat it before it defeated him. And the first group to save him on stream, with almost 100,000 viewers in the Final Fantasy XIV category, eagerly watching the race, Kryl.
Damn, Kryl was the first ones to do it. Oh, wow. GG. Thank goodness you are unharmed. They probably thought, like, what? Are we going back to P2 now? Look at him. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, baby.
On saving him.
Dude, that part is fucking sick. Bro, this fight is magical. It really is. God.
Timeline splits.
That's
The
so
Dragon
sick,
Song War Gauge resets back to 0. And you're thrown...
Like, this ultimate just hits different, bro. It just hits different, theme-wise. The fact that, like, people had to figure it out. It wasn't like a mechanic. It was more of, like, how do we get past it? It wasn't about difficulty there with the rewind. It's like, how are we going to get past it? They try to figure it out. That part is so fun, man. Watching people do it for the first time. I haven't actually seen people world first race this, because I was progging Was I progging UCOB during this? I think I was progging UCOB when DSR came out, and then I played DSR after UCOB. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember when I started progging UCOB, but it wasn't on release. It was like, it was on patch, but it wasn't day one launch. Marcel DSR prog, such a fun watch. I can't imagine, you know, I cannot imagine how fun it was. I've only seen Twitter clips of like Rewind and Clock and stuff like that, but I didn't watch like the whole streams of people doing it. But man, like when I saw that there was like a Rewind and stuff, I was like, and you know, I was like, I'm intrigued by this. But yeah, I wanted to play this Ultimate so bad because I loved Heavensward's story. Like it fucking got to me when I was doing the story as a Sprout. This shit was fucking awesome. Like I love Thordan to begin with, so this Ultimate is made for me, literally. Yeah, it's fucking
into an
awesome.
entirely new setting. Things have gone so very wrong. King Thordan is more powerful than ever, having obtained power over the dragons.
Yeah.
And now he brings
The
his full
consequences
force to bear against you.
of our actions.
Now, we had to see the consequences
For saving
of our
Haurchie.
actions. We had to see how we'd pay for rewriting history in such a callous manner.
Yeah.
This phase opened with a few simple auto-attack cleaves,
music.
before jumping right into the wrath of the heavens. And as soon as Thordan leapt away, it became clear that he just really likes trios, because this was a second
Yeah,
trio
exactly,
phase.
Takashi.
2 Knights leap down.
Like that's the cool thing, is just like, man, an alternate timeline, the what if scenario, how he loses his mind, how he becomes so powerful. He literally absorbed the fucking both dragons, Race Valgar and Nidhogg. He gets both those powers and he becomes the ultimate god.
And target one player apiece with a tether. And a dragon jumps down as well and stares
Ultimate's just different,
menacingly
bro.
between them. One player will also receive a blue marker on their head, the exact same one you've seen earlier in the fight, all the way back in Phase 2. As a quick reminder, it means that this player needs to be miles away from everyone else. The Knights will
they know
dive
about
their
that one.
targeted player shortly, in line with those tethers. And the dives are huge. On top of that, you have Twisters. Wait, Twisters? UCOB Twisters? Yeah.
They're
UCOB
back,
Twisters
baby.
are back, except this time they've decided to mess with every single experienced raider by giving them a slightly different snapshot timing than they've ever had
different.
before. Meaning that all your muscle memory, built up from 5...
What was it again? It's in DSR, it's animation based, not like when it lands on the ground, right? I think it was like animation based.
years of UCOB clears for friends, completely worthless. Spread the group along one side of the room, let the blue guy stand alone.
Honestly, here, I always move when the tethers disappear. That's like the perfect timing to press W. When those green tethers disappear.
In his blue guy corner,
that's the exact timing.
Stretch and bait their dives, leaving space for everybody else, and dodge the Twisters. As all this is happening, 2 random players will get Thunder Marks. One will get a green marker traditionally reserved for dive bomb-like mechanics, and you need to start paying attention to the knights standing menacingly in the arena. Know that there's a caster and a warrior. Thordan will use his invisible line AoE Ascalon's Mercy from Phase 2. The dive bomb will lock in, so place it away from any future safe spot that you may want to have. One player will get 5 fireball puddles that they need to bait, and another will get 4 large pyre AoEs to bait. The thunders will explode for a small AoE around themselves, paralyzing any...
The nice thing about those red AoEs is you can stack like 2 of them on top of each other and still be fine. Like just move to the edge, boom, boom.
To bait. The thunders will explode for a small AoE around themselves, paralyzing any accidental target that they somehow manage to hit, and the warrior will use a massive donut-shaped attack, meaning that close to him in a small circle is the only safe spot left in the room. And yeah, this all goes off at pretty much the exact same time. For one of the only times in this whole video, I'm actually happy to say that this mechanic is easier than it looks. It has a lot of moving parts, that's very true.
You just gotta do
all the
your
components and mechanics that you've seen before, and they are all, for the most part, what you see is what you get. If you deal with each of these individual components, you will get the win. By this stage, around 10 minutes into the encounter, groups had been...
Bro, if they remove Shikuchi and Dawn Trail, by the way, I'm gonna be smash mauled, okay? If they make it a... Well, we decided not to make it a ground targetable anymore. We decided to make it like Samurai's Dash. I'm gonna be pissed.
Become more accustomed
Surely
to the
they don't
randomized
ruin it,
nature
okay?
of most of the
It's the best
mechanics.
ability in the game.
And the fact
Come
that
on.
role-based responsibilities had, for the most part, been thrown out of the window.
Level
in favor
100
of more
ninja, baby.
randomness
I'm
in this
waiting.
encounter.
I'm waiting.
Without too much struggle,
I await.
this mechanic also fell. One mildly scary tank buster later, Death of the Heavens begun to cast.
Damn right.
I'm gonna spoil it right here. But this is the big one. This was more like Death of everybody's prog for at least a day, because it was a wall and a half. When the boss leaves the arena, you're greeted by this complete mess of dragons and knights around and inside the arena, and it can be overwhelming to figure out what you're even looking at, let alone how you're supposed to deal with it. Before I explain the actual solution, I think it's good to mention that one early solution that some groups were electing to try here is blocking the spear from one of the knights. I'm honestly not too sure why they were going for that, because it seemed fairly obvious that it wasn't.
Interesting. They were looking at the spear as if like they gotta do something with the spear.
I'm honestly not too sure why they were going for that,
Kinda
because it
interesting.
seemed fairly obvious that it wasn't the right play, but this was one of the earliest attempted solutions. So what happens?
Yeah,
here?
they're experimenting.
4 random
That's what they're
players get
doing.
Doom, meaning that unless they are cleansed in some way, they're gonna go splat when the Doom timer hits 0. Thordan, multiple dragons and knights spawn around the edge of the
Holy
arena,
shit.
and the warrior knight spawns inside
Oh
it
my
and
God,
begins
the Dooms.
channeling the
Oh
same
my God.
ballast that he uses in Phase 2. If you look at the target bar at this point, you're probably gonna gulp in fear. Twisting Dive, Cauterize, Wings of Salvation, Spear of the Fury, Lightning Storm,
Bunch
Heavy
of
Impact.
shit.
All of this is going off pretty much in sync with one another. And the first time pretty much every group got there, they instantly exploded. How are you supposed to develop a strategy for this when you couldn't even see what was going on because it was such a mess? Upon a lot of footage review and further testing, it was clear.
This is one of those cases where recording your own gameplay is gonna help you prog so much, because all this shit happening, you're not gonna be able to see it immediately everything. With recording, you'll see, okay, this one off, this is how it looks, etc., etc.
That most of
That's
this
gonna
was
help
just
you so
fluff,
much.
supposed to distract you away from what actually mattered. Twisting Dive was relevant because it signified twisters dropping, and Lightning Storm was relevant too, as it hit each player and required them to spread. Heavy Impact was the ballast, so you could just watch the pulsing AoE and dodge, and the rest just reduced the safe floor space. So what you wanted to do...
Which one of these casts the knockback? I don't know which one it is. What's Heavy Impact?
Required them to spread. Heavy Impact was the ballast, so you could just
Ballast? What is ballast?
watch the pulsing AoE and dodge, and the rest just reduced the safe floor space.
Pulsing
So what
AoE.
you wanted to do was to funnel players into these 6 small safe spots
Okay, that's the... Okay, yeah. I
before
know
being
that one.
presented with another issue. The non-dooms drop a puddle as all of this goes off. This has been used before in previous encounters, and it's known as a doom cleansing mechanic. So now it was obvious what you actually needed to do to cleanse
they
that
know they
doom.
gotta
It
cleanse.
was not a full HP mechanic, you needed to use the puddles. But don't worry, it gets worse. PlayStation is back, and he is joined by his ugly younger brother, Dragon's Eye and the Gaze from Thordan.
Yeah.
Chains appear once more, a knockback occurs,
Shit,
and
this
the
goes
players
hard,
explode.
man.
This is literally the mechanic from Phase 1, but with 2 lookaways added on top, and the requirement to have the dooms end up on the spots that you left the white puddles so that you could cleanse.
Yep.
After all of this, there's a meteor DPS check in order...
Oh, wait. With the circles, did they eventually know that standing far baits circles? And I wonder how they went about solving that. Like, maybe they... Because, you know, if you stand further, you get circled. Did they know that that's, like, eventually how they do it?
to ensure that you
How
got
did they
through this
figure that
mechanic
out?
mostly cleanly. So you had to get it right. This mechanic was hard. For those of you that are doing DSR today, it was a different experience, because there was little to no knowledge of baitable markers and no advanced strategies based on them. For the first handful of hours, the best attempts were the product of pure adjusting around the other 7 people and
Yeah.
trying to make some magic happen. Over time,
That's tough. That's tough to prog, dude. Blind.
this developed into
Completely blind.
strategies as groups learnt one another's tendencies and added new rules to slowly add structure
That's
into the
tough.
chaos. Getting the right people to the right safe spots to drop puddles were a major pain point, and once
Yeah.
that was overcome, organising PlayStation tethers once the added confusion of the dooms needing to go in certain places felt almost insurmountable. Eventually, after many hours of trial and error, breakthroughs were made. hit harder was one of the Thordan groups here, with a high level of consistency at getting players far into the mechanic to see
Oh
more.
shit, they got dooms
Cryle
all
pushed
over.
forward, getting part of the group to meteors, having resolved the previous part partially successfully.
Oh my god, look how they did
Geralt
it.
Tivoli surpassed them, Ray's cheesing through the meteor enrage and seeing the true enrage of the entire phase shortly afterwards, with a handful of players alive to boot.
Oh,
It felt like
wow.
almost every single Thordan group was at the exact same point, trading good pulls between each other. And one by one, they begun to break the wall.
I want to go to Daddy Thordan's Dragon Dungeon.
This was a great moment for Twitch chat, honestly, and I think it needs a little bit of a mention here. Viewers would hop between streams to whomever was having the best pull going at the time, showering the chat with people arrives whenever prog point was reached, and people leaving when the wipe occurred. They'd
People arrive, people leave.
post cute little references to each of the major streams as they arrive, like Baldo Wig to Village Burned, Banana Peel, and I mean it when I say this. Twitch chat made this experience 10 times more enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree.
Being cheered on by
Dude, even with Top, the same thing with Top, man. Red is defamation. Blue is defamation. Ugh, it's so fun. And then they fucking go cat jam when Top P5 starts. Yeah, I watched along for Top's prog, because I was progging it on day one on release. Top is like the first one I progged on the first day of release.
so many different people, different stream chats collectively coming together to hop between POVs and support each of the forerunning groups. It was a unique atmosphere that is pretty much impossible to recreate. Following all of this, Thordan simply hit the raid with damage, another spooky scary tank buster, and begun channeling his enrage. At this point, if you had the DPS, you could kill him. But there was a catch. Once he reached 2%, he would stop his enrage.
Oh yeah, shit. They're not gonna know that they're not supposed to kill him. How they gonna know?
Drop to the floor, and begin begging for mercy. This was very odd, this had never happened before.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy XIV raiders have a bit of a soft spot for old men in armor, so the majority consensus from groups getting to this point was, yeah, let's see what happens. And it was clearly some kind of success state, because Thordan had a special animation,
I yield, have mercy, I beg you.
additional dialogue. He would escape, leaping away, calling you too kind for your own good. And at long last, the transition to Phase 6 happened.
Hell yeah. Oh man, this part is chaotic.
Welcome to the hardest phase in DSR to prog.
Yeah, this is...
This phase was a slog.
This was, personally, this was the most difficult phase for me to prog. There was so many steps, man. Like, I was like, what the fuck is going on? I looked at the guide 1,000 times. I looked at the toolbox 1,000 times. I kind of did some things right, but I was like struggling with this. But, you know, thankfully I had really awesome people surrounding me, helping me through it from LPDU. And, like, eventually I got it. I got it within, like, maybe a day or two, because people were really helping me out, like, really understanding the movement. I watched Lars' POV. I watched back my own VOD. Helped a lot, actually.
Before I get into why exactly, let's walk you through what's happening quickly. The wandering minstrel recites his verse. A single life can alter the course of history. Enslaved by an ancient relic, the great worm Hrsvelga descended upon Ishgard at his vengeful brother's side. Thanks to our saving of Haurchefant and our sparing of Thordan, this is what had happened. Both Nidhogg and Hrsvelga bring their full force to bear against us, cornering your party between the two of them at the final steps of faith. The first mechanic is Worm's Breath, which tethers each of the non-tanks with either an ice tether or a fire tether, 3 apiece. These tethers shoot the targeted player with a fairly thin pizza slice cleave at the end of the cast, and if you had fire, you get Pyretic, which forces you to stop moving, and if you had ice, you will be frozen, and thus unable to move. If you get hit by both though, they will cancel one another out, and you get neither. The crux of this mechanic is managing your available space in order to get each of the 6 players hit twice and only twice, while also having them start off close enough to one another.
Dude, the crazy thing here with Ninja is, like, it really depends on kill time, how you're gonna Tenchi Jin, and you gotta make sure that Tenchi Jin goes through just right. Just right. One, the guide for this phase. Oh yeah, this is the next one that's coming up, and then the last phase. We're actually very close to finishing our own DSR guide, yeah. Yeah, I'll try to get it done as fast as possible. I know I'm very slow with it. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just not good with the pacing.
Deal with the randomness of the targeting, especially considering that large tank busters are going off at
I'll
the same
get through
time,
it, I
so
promise.
You can't just use the full arena.
I'll finish
One
this
random
part.
DPS gets marked by Mortal Vow, reducing their ability to heal. This needs to be traded to another player by stacking on expiration. And if that doesn't happen, an enraged state instantly triggers.
Oh shit.
You'll spend the entire phase juggling this buff between players, hoping no third guy accidentally stands in it and subsequently goes.
Honestly, it's more like motivation, to be honest. And I have to review everything I'm saying, so it's like 100%, you know? So like I don't fuck up.
Boom. Then
some
comes
time
Akafar,
to be
which is
sure.
honestly the worst mechanic in this entire fight. Both dragons will
Oh, yeah,
channel
Hand
and
of Pain.
stack damage on the healers, so split into
Yeah,
parties of
I
4.
feel that.
But there's a twist. During this mechanic, both dragons need to be within 3% of HP of one another, or else they are going to tether together and make this stack instantly kill everyone within it. And it is awful
Yeah.
to deal with, because this occurs so late in the encounter, and the HP differential
Oh boy.
is so
I sure hope my fucking shit doesn't crit, cause damn.
minimal,
Hand of
and the
Pain will be
dragons
fucked.
don't have a large amount of HP to begin with. This all combines to create a punishing mechanic that falls victim to crit variance a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
groups had to work really hard and be very aware
You
to
have
make
to.
sure that they could keep
All the game has to do here is allow percentage of HP to be shown in the enmity list. There's no reason that we don't have this in the game. Dawn Trail needs to add that. 100%.
their
It's
DPS's
important.
itchy trigger finger from bursting too much during that 5-second window. Then Nidhogg dives and the tanks are hit by huge AoEs that everyone else has to avoid before the cast of Wrath Flames begins. This mechanic was the
Or you
big
could use the plugin. True.
prog wall of the phase.
Ideally.
Big sets of fireballs would spawn, which will later explode in a plus shape in the order they spawned. Hraesvelgr this time will dive in the same way Nidhogg did before, rendering a large section of the Steps of Faith a death zone. Nidhogg casts
Yeah, this part goes
Stackmore,
crazy.
a multi-hit stack on the group, and with each hit, a dangerous bleed puddle is
God
left on the
bless
floor beneath.
Ninja here,
You
by
need
the
to
way.
move as one, taking
This is
all
your
of this
trick attack
damage,
window.
avoiding the fireballs
So you
and
have
dives
Yosho
and
right
the
on.
brand new Hot Wing or Hot Tail, and then organize into groups randomly based into spreads or different pair stacks that can be randomly assigned based on debuffs.
Oh,
Easy,
shit.
right? There were a few problems here. Firstly, you had to clear all the way up to this phase, which was an insane consistency check.
Yeah.
Then,
Just
you had to
getting
get
here.
through both Worm's Breath and the equal HP check, which were both still pain points for practically every stream group. And once you managed to do all those things and get a life pull on your hands, which could take a solid hour of attempts to do,
Look
you
at the way
then
they
had to deal with
dodged.
the massive incoming damage, the random buffs, and locating the safe spot, and figuring out the best path to direct
That
the
was
Aqualon
something.
baits in. One word to sum up the progression of this mechanic.
Yeah, it was rather.
Punishing.
Yeah, it was different.
But eventually, after much pain and iteration, strats began to come together. After all this goes down, there's another Akafar equal HP check, which meant the groups had to pay special attention to boss HP immediately after Wrath Flames in order to equalize.
Yeah.
Then a bunch more dodging, Mortal Vow trades, tank busters, and a second Worm's Breath. Then, the two dragons will get sick of this encounter, jump to the north, and dive you together, killing the raid. This was quickly solved. Nidhogg is fire-coded and Hraesvelgr is ice-coded. And you remember how double stacking the fire and ice elements of the Worm's Breath has them cancel one another out? Well, if you skip that step entirely and go
Look
into the
where they
dragon
stand.
dives with the fire or the ice buff, you can use them to cancel out the elements associated with the dives and survive the phase. This
Yeah,
is all
'cause-
followed.
I mean, sitting in that corner is actually further instead of being straight north, but a lot of the times, like, you know, it doesn't hurt when we do it normally
by an
because
enraged
of
sequence.
just how things are
I don't
now,
think I can
guess.
quite put into words how painful Double Dragons was to blind prog. It was like it was specifically designed
it's a
to
headache.
be prog wall, equal
Absolute
HP
headache.
checks, and two of them at that, and numerous mechanics back to back that were just cryptic enough to require trial and error to
This
reach
was
the
tough.
correct solution and pass. The phase hits hard, too, especially on tanks, and if there wasn't a real plan in place to provide mitigation for each of the many major hits, it was all too easy to watch your main tank hit the mud to a hallowed wing. Your cooldowns were just
Yeah.
stretched too thin to be able to overstack anywhere. This phase was so tough due to the pseudo-enrage too, which I haven't mentioned yet. You know how dropping the Mortal Vow without trading it causes an enrage? Well, there's another way to get that. If Ray's Velga kills a player through any method, you'll get pop-up text that would become painfully familiar to progging groups. And he will enrage, making his attacks one-shot. Phase 6 didn't take hours to
The Horace Valgar quote, right?
It took days. Full 16-hour day slots.
Yeah, his Solemn Vow
And multiple
has
of them
broken.
too, solving and perfecting and iterating to reach the end. Just as groups were approaching the end, a tweet came in. Neverland had done it.
Damn.
They'd cleared. World First had been claimed. Until this point, the entire group had
So
been
that's when they
quiet
got
on
it.
social media, trading flamboyant shows of how far ahead they were for focus on their own game. And it had absolutely paid off. At this point, no stream group had even seen the final phase of the fight. So it was a testament
Wow.
of just how well those players
Damn, Neverland was popping off, bro.
performed and how much they deserved that win. A massive
They were so ahead.
congratulations to them and the legacy that they built that week. At this
Damn.
point, almost an entire week into prog, groups were beginning to drop out. Paid time off from work was running out for those that took just a week. Prog
They
was
were a whole
impacting
phase
health,
ahead.
and in some cases, DSR was just becoming too much. But for many, the
And then came the plug-in incident.
race was still on. There were still placements to claim. There was no confirmed win on
Oh yeah, the plug-in incident from top.
stream, no footage of final phase, and everything to play for.
I love this part. I love it. Everyone first ever has plugins in FF, every single one. Yeah. Oh, it's not even up to debate. It's 100%. If everyone wants to reach world first, they will do whatever they can to become number one. How to become number one? Use literally every tool in your disposal, including plugins, add-ons, whatever it is. Oh yeah, 100%. There's no doubt about that. I think in top, it just became like oh, he zoomed out all the way back. I feel like in top, it was like, we saw you do this shit, you don't deserve world first, and it became like a meme afterwards, right? I don't know, did DSR have this? At least I don't remember DSR having like, did Neverland like stream their first world first?
No Hit were the first group to see that transition live on stream, followed shortly by...
Oh, live on stream. Yeah, it was streamed.
It were the first group to see that transition live on stream, followed shortly by Kryl. Thordan absorbs the power of both...
Oh.
No Hit were the first
No Hit were the first, okay.
group to see that transition live on stream, followed shortly by Kryl.
So the first
Thordan
one's on
absorbs
stream.
the power of both the slain worms and
That was
becomes
shown.
what he always aspired to be, the Dragon King. This is the product of your choices. This is what you've done, and you need
Look at all these plugins.
to make it right. His transition goes off with an insanely hard-hitting raid wide, and as reality shatters for a moment, the final phase
Oh,
begins.
shit!
Dragon King Thordan is a simple phase, with only a few mechanics that cycle into the enrage. Firstly, you have Exaflare's Edge. Exaflares are a regularly recurring mechanic
This goes
in
hard.
FF14 since you
Look, they stand in the middle.
AoEs that indicate with an arrow. They'll pulse, moving in the direction of the arrow, hitting multiple times along the way. These Exaflares were built different though, because they split in 3 different directions apiece, and with 3 initial Exaflares, you would have
Oh my
9
God.
different pulsing circles of death moving all around the arena, and you needed to find the safe spot. If only it were that easy though, because the boss will also glow with a fire or ice imbuement. If it's fire, you need to be outside the hitbox when the Exaflares start. If it's ice, you need to be
Oh, there we go.
inside.
They did the dodge.
These fire and ice mechanics accompany each of
They
the
did the
3
dodge.
casted abilities, so just assume they're there for both of the other 2 that I'm about to explain. Luckily, groups found a consistent solution to Exaflare that required basically no thought.
Yeah.
Because dodging into the rear AoE and
And it's like 100% this will work every time.
taking a small backstep worked for every single possible
Yeah,
pattern,
every single
completely removing the need to look at the arrows or think at all. Next came Akmorn's Edge, and based on this naming convention, I think it's fair to assume that Thordan is a bit of an edgy lad. Akmorn's Edge is a set of 3 multi-hit raid wides, one for the tanks at the back, and 2 for the rest of the party on the northwest and east. Each time this mechanic comes back,
I love
it
the last
hits
phase, man. I
extra
thought it was
times,
good.
and you need a tight mitigation plan
Oh, that
to
was really
survive
good.
because it hits like a truck. Lastly, you had Giga Flare's Edge, which would telegraph 3 meteors in order, and you
Run.
simply needed to stand opposite the first one and then move away from each meteor as they go off, healing through the damage. In between each time one of these mechanics occurs, you get to deal with 2 Trinities. It's called Trinity because it hits 3 people. It attacks both tanks and whichever player ends up deepest inside the boss hitbox. Being hit by Trinity as a non-tank gives you a vuln up, so you cycle between the 6 players of the raid to take hits. Tanks get
Yeah, I'm not sure how the tank stuff works here, by the way. So I never tank, obviously, and I didn't have to care about this, but is it like, so the main tank gets hit by 1, the off tank, second in enmity list, gets hit, and then obviously this one is like whoever's closest. So does the off tank need to provoke after the first hit so that they get this debuff instead of the main tank getting 2 of them? Is it like that? Or I don't know. Like, what happens if this Dark Knight gets 2 dark debuffs? Does he just fucking die? It's a stance dance. Right. And then the next time, it's the same. Okay. It's the same idea. And you have to, like, constantly swap to make sure. So the dark debuff is always the main tank, right? Is he the main tank? Yeah, he has the highest enmity. And the off tank gets light. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right.
light and dark vulnerability, and they need to regularly tank swap to prevent their stacks
Always
from getting
dark.
too high. That's it. That's everything. Everything I've mentioned cycles through a few times, and then you get to Enrage. This
Oh, there we go. They have 2 dark, 2 light, 2 dark, 2 light. So that's the way it's fine.
was truly a pinnacle final phase, with relatively simple to understand dances, but incredibly punishing ones that made you pay attention to the
Oh,
details.
one fell off.
It also wasn't unrecoverable either, because high healer awareness could easily fix a messed up tank swap, or a quick adjust and res making up for an unfortunate player death. Phase 7 also hit incredibly hard. The mitigation requirement was tight, and even with good mit, the outgoing damage was high, and precise timing was needed. But this is something that the top groups excel at, and it was certainly not going to hold them back from victory. As more and more groups clawed their way to Phase 7, at this point, all eyes were glued to Twitch streams, watching the attempts get closer and closer to victory. And eventually...
This is like the most hyped time for Final Fantasy XIV, man. Ultimate release, the streams are through the fucking roof. It's exciting, it's fun. I miss those times when I see shit like this, man.
Carl stepped up.
Dontro's gonna be sick, bro. I'm so hyped. That was a good video, man. It's quite long, but damn. It's good.
Get it.
Oh shit, they're at the end.
Nice LB! Yes, sir!
Oh my god. Nice LB, dude. That was fucking badass. Wait, so who got the second? Wait, was Creel the one that got the second world first or whatever? The race, I mean, their second place.
Oh my god, we did it, dude!
And Neverland's rank 1.
Oh my god!
Oh, they got 5th. That's still really good. Damn, man, that's fucking awesome.
Oh my god, dude!
Oh, first on stream.
This was their moment. They had taken stream first, and it was an emotional...
Stream first. Dude, I feel like stream first is more fucking hype, man. Like, don't get me wrong, man. You're seeing these guys proc from the start. You're seeing their journey. And I think from a viewer perspective, it's more entertaining to just see them clear on stream for the first time. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's how I feel about it, though. Like, I enjoyed this kind of shit a lot, man.
finish, to be sure. And
Imagine
now,
if you're world first and stream first. Yeah, actually, that'd be so hype.
I'm just going to cut to the post-victory cutscene and let it play out on its own with no narration.
Dragon Song. That's beautiful. And then when the music plays, So ends an alternate chapter in their tale. Fucking hype, man. Damn, Rinon, that was a good video, dude. Damn, Rinon. Fucking good one. That was hype. I never saw, like, the world first clips. Like, not all of them. And a lot of the things, I didn't know just how the journey was for these people, you know? It's really cool seeing, like, all the details on how they progged and how they tried to figure shit out. Like, with that, like, eyes and the rewind. And, like, how they had to figure that out. What they did, the steps. This was a good fucking video. There was obviously a lot of research done in this. He looked at all the previous footage, and he probably followed the world first because he was also part of world first. So he was competing and seeing the other competitors. So he had a really good
I think it's
image.
not an unpopular opinion
idea
to
of it.
say that Dragon Song's Reprise changed Final Fantasy XIV for good. It was
It's the best ultimate in the game.
the first ultimate with such a heavy story focus. And while due to an unfortunate backlash from people who will never do the fight, I think it added to what made it so exciting.
Yeah.
People weren't just hyped to see their favourite groups and streamers prog. They were excited to see what would happen next. They were eager to
Yeah.
see the alternate timeline, to see if they could save him, to witness the twists and turns that would happen along the way. It was also, at the
Yeah.
time, without a doubt, the hardest fight in the game's history. In the same way that UCOB took encounters to a whole new level of expectation in 2017, DSR did it again in 2022. People that cleared came out much, much stronger players than they went in. It was an incredible fight with satisfying phases, intense puzzles, and some of the tightest execution checks in the game's history that really pushed the player base to their limits. DSR was special, and really, I wonder if there will ever be anything quite like it ever again.
Dawn Trail, baby. Get ready. Get ready, bro. We're getting Eden Ultimate, bro. That shit is insane. That's gonna be fucking good. I'm telling you, that's gonna be insane. Bro, get ready for that shit. Eden Raids, that's gonna be the next one, bro. I'm calling it. Dude, you know how good Light Rampant is? I mean, the craziness of Light Rampant. Imagine an ultimate version of Light Rampant. Imagine. I think with Stormblood, MSK will be first, like how DSR was before time. I think, The Stormblood will come first, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm more excited about the Eden Ultimate more than the Stormblood one. Of course, the Stormblood one, I'm fucking hyped, right? Wayward Daughters, a fucking good soundtrack. Shit, you got Tsukiyomi, you got all the, you got Shinryu, you got Xenos, Gosetsu, he might show up too. Like, who knows? Maybe there's gonna be a save Yotsuyu fucking moment, although that'd be kind of repetitive. But let's imagine if we saved Yotsuyu, right? And like Asahi shows up or some shit, and he's kind of an asshole, and then we have to kick his ass. I don't know, something like that, man. That'd be kind of cool, right? Maybe I don't know. Maybe it'd be too much like DSR though, with the whole alternate timeline thing, right? But man, like, I think it'd be sick though. And honestly, I think Eden's gonna be number one, bro. The Savage fights alone are beyond insane. I love Eden Ultimate. I love E4S. I don't know what they do though. Like, what ultimates are they gonna do? Sorry, what raids they're gonna pick? Because in Stormblood they pretty much picked like the the Omega stuff. They didn't pick Midgard Sommer. They didn't pick Chaos. They didn't pick Kefka. And all that other stuff, right? No, also, they didn't pick X-Death. They went with the Omega theme. So if we look at Shadowbringers, it's like, what are they gonna pick, man? Like, I think it would be a mistake not to include Gaia and Shiva in this. The last phase maybe can be like them attuning together or something. Umbra is really good. Umbra, E9S, is insane. I love this fight. They can do something with that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they can go all out with this. I don't think it's just going to be Gaia and Shiva only, right? There's going to be more, surely. They're going to add probably like... Oh, what if they make it primal focused? Like Leviathan, Titan, Garuda, and Ifrit here. I don't know. Honestly, I'd be down for whatever, because I love all these fights. They're really good. But I think it would be a mistake not to include Gaia and Shiva. Because when I think of Eden, I think of these two characters. All the time. When I think of the Stormblood ultimate, I think of Tsukuyomi and Shinryu. So they have to include those. How you doing, by the way? Memeception? How's it going, dude? I can't wait for Shadowbringer ulti in a few years. Yeah, it's gonna be... the wait time is gonna suck. I'm not gonna lie. But it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting. And also, just so you guys know, if Viper ends up being really good and I really enjoy it, I'm going to be playing Viper in the new Ultimate Raid. Yep, I'll be playing Viper. We'll have to see, though, if it's actually fun for me, enjoyable, rotation-wise. Otherwise, I'm gonna do a level 100 ninja. Because, you know, it really depends. Look, heavily depends how Viper's like, okay? If it's popping off, if I like it, fuck yeah. I'm pretty much the assassin prodigy with the hoodie on and everything and the double swords. So, you know, it still fits for what I actually enjoy. Yeah, for real. Titan Savage music. Yes, that'd be badass. Dude, the Titan Savage music is crazy. Easy, one of my favorites. Shiva Savage music as well. Damn. Eden is a masterpiece. I love Eden. Eden was the big alien thing. And there are 2 early bosses. Oh yeah, shit, the E1S thing. Right. I think they'll include that. Oh yeah, shit, and this one. Because Gaia ends up... Oh, wait. Gaia was there in E2S. Maybe after E2S, then it like transitions into a phase where she gets the fucking big-ass hammer. Right? Because she was in E2S, yeah. I think this will be included. And I guess the big alien thing will be included. I mean, it's literally in the word Eden. And that is what Eden is. I actually have the mount for it. In case you guys want to see. Shit, where's mounts? Here it is. Fuck, I can't equip it, bro. But I do like this mount as well. But Eden's sick, man. 4 Roads Ultimate will be so fun. Especially Suzaku. Look. Suzaku is fucking awesome. Because the music goes hard, bro. The music goes hard in Suzaku. I love that shit. Yeah, chances are we're probably not gonna get it. I'm not gonna lie. It would be cool to have it, but I don't think we're actually gonna get it. We're gonna get the Stormblood ultimate for the story. I mean, surely, right? Most likely. I think it's very highly likely that that's gonna be the one instead of the 4 Lords. Eden! I like Eden, man. It's a good one. Big fan of this mount. Eden Promise, yeah. They did keep a theme with top. They surely will do the same with Eden Raids. Yeah, they're probably gonna follow that same... the same idea, you know? I think most likely